This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, episode number 109. Sounds like a
Yes,
good
it is.
Sounds like a good lottery number. 109. Not that I ever play it.
109.
I was in the drugstore yesterday. Guy in front of me spent $40 on lottery tickets. I said, "Hey, why don't you pass me a 20? And I'll tell you right now, you lost."
Oh man, when I was 19, I worked in a 24-hour. It's like some summer job. My parents were like, "You need to learn, work ethics or some shit." I was like, "Okay," and I worked in one of these stores, and these stores cater to all types of addictions, whether it's junk food, cigarettes, beer,
or lottery tickets.
The scratch ticket lottery people were the worst. There was this one woman that she would spend like hundreds of dollars a day. I don't know where her money was coming from. And they had a Keno machine in there too, which is like one of those numbers flash up every 10 minutes. And when I would she would fill out her numbers, I'd put it in the machine, and there would be like a security thing like, "Are you sure you want to bet this much?" Like I had to like bypass a bunch of buttons. I mean, her shit was a disaster. And then she would always be like, "Oh," as if she was just thinking about it last second. "Oh, now that I think about it, like 5 cash millions, please." Like the most expensive scratch ticket. Like, "Oh, right. You weren't thinking about that one." No, well, that summer, one of the scratch tickets had this dumb thing where even if you lose, you can send in your losing ticket, and then you'll be in a raffle for some shitty SUV. And so there'd be people coming at the end of the night, sifting through the trash to collect losing tickets so they could have a higher chance by sending it in. And there was this kind of like this trashy woman, Mary, this older woman that worked there. And she's like, "Did Sarah come in and go through the garbage to get those tickets last night?" I was like, yeah. Okay. She's like, "Tell her she can't. That's Mary's garbage. That's my garbage." So I was like, oh, real high class.
As the son of a semi-professional gambler, and I have to say, at least my dad was good at the horse races.
Okay.
At cards, at the dog races. I always said if they had an OTB, if they bet on cockroach races down at the OTB, he'd be there and he'd probably win. But I don't gamble. I think it's no. I figure I have just as much a chance of winning if I don't bet than if I do. And the thing is, sometimes the people that win, they still keep betting anyway. I mean, on lottery, they win the lottery for $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. They got to go back for more because they are addicted.
Well, that's the thing about people who win these giant lotteries is the majority of them blow through it all. And it's mainly because the majority of people that play it actually there's a higher rate of gambling problems with those people. So they basically keep the same patterns, but the stakes change. And so they blow through that fucking money in no time. But
speaking about professional losers.
Yes.
The contractor that was conducting the Republican-led audit of the so-called fraudulent election in Maricopa County, well, they missed the deadline to provide a congressional panel with information about the audit. These fucking idiots.
So pathetic.
Cyber stooge security firm, Cyber Ninjas, had until July 28th to provide the House Oversight and Reform Committee with information as part of this ridiculous probe that cost like $3 million. So Representative Carolyn Maloney and Jamie Raskin, the panel's top Democrats, asked Cyber Ninjas, how about the documents? How about the communications? How about anything? Came up with nothing. Typical waste of time and money by that fraudster fuck, Trump. And speaking about his good buddy, another ridiculous dumb fuck grifter, faced with mounting legal bills in a defamation suit from Dominion Voting Systems, Rudy Giuliani, I can't even believe it, is turning to the personal message site Cameo, which, by the way, people have suggested I post something on there so I could charge people to insult them or compliment them. It's ridiculous. Where users can pay for personal messages from public figures. Well, Giuliani joining Cameo is because a string of all his financial setbacks. The suspension of his DC law license, his suspension from practicing law in New York State, and the mounting bills, which of course his good friend, that the dumpster, won't pay him for all of his time ill spent. So this is Rudy's quote. Hi, I'm Rudy Giuliani, and I'm on Cameo. If there's an issue you want to discuss, or a story you'd like to hear or share with me, or a greeting that I can bring to someone that would bring happiness to their day, I would be delighted to do so. It can be arranged. We can talk through the magic of Cameo. I'm thinking of hiring them just to send me a message that says, I will fucking kill myself right now before I go to prison. Go ahead.
My God.
I know.
Well, they're all coming down. Well, I mean, I'm in Germany, and I'm not so on top of the New York news, but yeah, Cuomo resigned.
Oh, yeah, that's because he loves everyone so much. He's resigned. I mean, it was actually smart for him to do it because, unlike Trump, who will go through numerous fraudulent trials and errors and fail, he just decided, I can't win this, so I quit.
Well, I mean, he also claims it's become such a distraction that he can't really govern.
Look, I don't abide by his so-called practices. However, what about Trump? I'll tell you a little story about Germany. I don't know if you caught this since you're over there, but a 41-year-old teacher just is going on trial in Germany, accused of sadocannibalism for sexual gratification. The teacher, identified in the German media as Stefan R., under the nation's strict privacy laws, is alleged to have killed a 43-year-old technician in his apartment shortly after meeting him on a dating website. He then allegedly cut up the victim, identified as Stefan T., and dumped the body parts at various locations across Berlin. The prosecution plans to argue there was a sadistic, cannibalistic sexual motivation for the crime after the suspect allegedly ate parts of the corpse. So I'm not too happy that they didn't tell me which part of the corpse. Probably the liver, maybe.
I think we've touched on this before because there was a famous sexual cannibal fetish arrangement in Germany years back. Of course, Germany is so embarrassed about World War II, so they really try to not have violence in their culture. It's not that they've worked hard to make sure that's not like a thing celebrated like we do in the States. So this couple, like a homosexual couple, they met online, and one of them had the fetish of being killed and eaten, while the other one had the fetish of like, I want to eat someone, and they arranged it. He killed the person and he ate him. Now this is where they lost, because the German prosecution, they're like, what do we do with this one? It's not a good look, because the defense was saying that the defense was like, well, this is a sexual thing. It was consensual. Everything was agreed upon. And where the prosecution got them was just like people that kind of achieve some kind of long-term fantasy. A lot of times people want little trophies. That's how fucking pedophiles get busted all the time. They want little trophies of the evidence. The guy didn't eat the whole corpse. He left a hunk of meat in there, and that's how they got him. Like, oh, you didn't do the deal.
Almost all killers, and especially serial killers, always want the trophies. Now, this story is about somebody who maybe killed himself with his own trophy accidentally. A Dutch tourist choked to death after swallowing his car keys while in Spain, because locals cannot understand what he was saying as he begged for help. So the unnamed 37-year-old swallowed his car keys by accident. What?
Yeah, how?
I mean, I could understand if he was like snorting a bump off his key and it went up his nose, but he swallowed his car keys by accident while on holiday in Barcelona. He entered a shopping center in the district of Sarriá Sant Gervasi, which is a really beautiful bourgeois neighborhood, and pleaded for help. Was kicked out by security because they could not understand what he was saying. Security officers said the man entered the shopping center in the morning and appeared animated and excited. Like I said, maybe he was doing bumps off his keys. It is unclear if shoppers could understand anything he was saying, because he was speaking in Dutch, not an easy language to decipher. And the security
and he was choking to death. Yeah.
The security asked him to leave because he was creating a disturbance. He wouldn't, so they forced him out of the center, and then he choked to death. Damn, vacations are expensive these days.
Oh my God. Well, I don't know if this was a vacation for people, but there was a off-duty, I don't know if you heard this, off-duty American Airlines pilot that was on a flight from DC to Chicago. And upon a landing, even though he wasn't technically working, he got on the PA and starts doing this really far out announcement. And he starts with, I'm a sex addict. And I mean, it's sad. He's like, I'm a sex addict and I've had suicidal thoughts. And all these people are like, what the hell's going on here? And it's on the PA of all this stuff. And then he goes, I know this makes people feel uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. And everyone was freaking out. Like, what's going on here? And
well, I mean, maybe he was already a member of the Mile High Club. He was just inviting everybody else to join.
Well, American Airlines, of course, took it very seriously because, well, just like they had German wings, and I think that flight out of Malaysia, they don't want suicidal pilots flying their fucking planes.
And who knows? I mean, it could be a sexual fetish. I mean, death by crash. Why not?
Well, sure, it could be.
It could be. It could be something in the air on planes now because maybe all the disinfectant they have is driving everybody to go a bit kookalooch. I mean, again, there's another story about this time it was a teenager. They had to actually duct tape to his chair because he was out of control just this week at an airline. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, people are freaking out. But also, I mean, even with besides the disinfectants that are flowing through the passenger sections of the plane, these planes are the CEOs. They have to cut corners by like the microcent, and airlines are giving the passengers the lowest amount of oxygen they can give you legally, and they bring it's way down from what you should be really having, but you can still live. So they're cutting the corners with everything they fucking can.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I don't know if you ever have this effect on a plane, Jim, but I was talking to our good friend Paul Kosturis in San Francisco, who booked my show with Eugene Robinson out there last week. And we were just talking about travel and stuff. And he said he didn't know why. And I've had this effect too, and a few other people. You could be on a plane, and I know you watch movies on planes. What else is there to do? And he goes, every time it could be the dumbest movie. It could be Lassie Come Home. It could be Bambi, or it could be Saw 5. And he starts crying. And so
this is common. This is common. Actually.
I mean, the last time he was on a flight, he goes, that his band members were going, hey, did you watch a movie? And he goes, yes. And I started, and the whole band had started crying over, I don't even know what movie, but maybe that's oxygen deprivation.
No, it's oxygen. It's also some kind of, it's cabin pressure stuff, but yeah, you cry when you probably shouldn't. I mean, as Rat Bastard, who used to work for Delta, he's like commercial airlines, that the experience for the customer, it's the 2021 bus. It's basically the experience is similar to what the fucking Greyhound was just years ago. It's an awful experiyes. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not
usually
nice.
I'm the one who's laughing when they shouldn't be instead of crying when they should be. So,
yes.
Speaking of something that is bringing a fucking tear to my thigh as I sit here in 95-degree weather, feeling like 104 with humidity at 87% in New York City today. Climate change is a hammer hitting us over the head. That's what an official said, calling it code red for humanity. Hundreds of top scientists released a devastating report on Monday about the danger that human-caused climate change is posing. Right now, we're all feeling it. And the landmark report was released in Geneva by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's a 3,900-page report that provides an unprecedented degree of clarity about the future, or what should we say, the lack of future of our planet, and the need to reduce and ultimately eliminate our emissions of greenhouse gases. Now, many of the changes that we're seeing right now, they're unprecedented for not only thousands of years, I mean, hundreds of thousands of years. And a lot of the changes that have already taken, they're irreversible. So, I mean, climate change right now is affecting every single region of the earth. And look, we all know it. Wild weather events, storms, heat waves expected to worsen, become more frequent. And just this July, Vancouver, 121 degrees. Portland, 116 degrees. Kuwait, 127 degrees. Iraq, 126. Idaho, 108. The past 2 weeks alone, the flooding in Germany, out of control fires in Greece and Turkey and Portugal, 91 fires raging in the US right now. 7 of California's largest wildfires have occurred in the last year. Smoke from the fires in the West has been responsible for, we know how bad the air quality is. Right now, nobody in Colorado can even breathe. They're choking as I speak. Flooding in Nebraska, for fuck's sake, unheard of. Unheard of. And you know what? I don't want to live forever, but another 10 or 15 years might not be bad. So I'm trying to breathe as easy as I can right now.
Yes, well, I'm glad you are. And I'm going to, with all the problems humans do, I'm going to shift. I couldn't do it before because I lost my page, to animals attacking human beings. So there was 2 Australian army soldiers, one of which who got really badly mauled by a giant saltwater croc. They decided to go swimming in quote unquote croc country and Cape York.
Where is that?
Cape York Peninsula, which is the northern top of Queensland, Australia. And of course, it was just to give you a sense, the average size of a saltwater croc up there.
Do tell.
It is 17 feet and 1,000 pounds.
Oh my God. Tim, and that's like you, me, and Weasel put together, plus Bob Burt. I don't.
Yeah, but they are known to grow up to 25 feet and could be and over a ton, over 2,000 pounds. And there's,
are they the biggest in the world? Are they the biggest in the world?
I think the saltwater crocs are actually.
I mean, if there's any bigger ones, don't tell me, please.
No, because the Nile crocs and the ones in India, they can be huge too. So I don't really, but I'm pretty sure it's saltwater.
I'll investigate.
Which there's an estimated 200,000 there, and they're kind of everywhere. I mean, when you decide to go swimming in a lake in northern Queensland, I don't know what you're fucking thinking. But the guys
they were trying to avoid the sharks.
Well, which is very common sighting of a saltwater croc munching down on a bull shark. I mean, that's kind of a thing. I mean, in this murky water. Now I'm going to move on to another one. A teenage boy in Key Largo, Florida. He got chomped on his calf and foot, and they're like, "Oh, of course, that's a shark or something." Now, according to experts in the teeth marks, it's a mysterious sea creature. They don't know what the fuck it was, and they still don't know. It didn't. Nothing's adding up. He's fine, but he had a little chunk of flesh cut out and some stitches. But
animals are hungry. You got to feed them. I mean, and they don't all like human flesh, but I mean, I guess they figured if Germans can do it, why couldn't a shark, a croc, or a whatever?
When I was living in Sanibel Island, Florida, for 6 months before I moved to New York, making money, it was really insane. This elderly man, he was like 94 or 96, one of those numbers. He was walking his little
poodle.
It was like a corgi, or is that what those things are called? He was walking one of, and those things are like a big chunk of like muscle or something, but they have those miniature legs. And an alligator launched out of the bushes and latched onto his dog, and the old man with his cane's like, "Get off of my man's best friend!
Get off of my corgi!"
The fucking alligator whips around and rips this guy's arm off. He died, he bled to death. But I just can't imagine. Could you imagine living to 94 or 96 and then dying in the most dynamic and primal way like ever, like
and most silly way, saving a corgi? Just give him a little bite, give him something to eat. Hey, if it's me or a fucking pup, honey, I ain't going in.
No.
I don't know about you. I ain't going in.
Crocs and alligators, they've got one thing on their pea-sized minds: food, and they're not thinking about anything else.
Look, other than a hippo, I have to say I ain't going near a croc unless it's an alligator on a skewer or in Chile when I'm in New Orleans. That's about it.
Now we're talking.
I'm getting hungry. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Yes, that's another side story. Years ago, I went to the Amazon with my brothers. Yeah, it was a very exotic trip. We went really deep in. We were kind of being taken care of by these indigenous natives who were also, connected with the industrialized world. So they have like some tourism thing going on. And one night Amazon, that's just no joke. It's not like, hey, I'm going to take a walk in the woods.
I mean, look, I've never been, but you can't even imagine unless you've gone. It's unimaginable.
It's so fucking dense. And the thing that blew my mind is, because we flew into Manaus, which a lot of people don't know is the city in the middle of the Amazon. That's 2 million people. So people don't realize there's a massive city in the middle of it. But then from there, we flew to Barcelos. From there, we took these seaplanes. But what blew my mind is it's like flying over the ocean. Say the Atlantic, you look down, it's really dense. It's all blue. It doesn't end. It's all green. You can't see ground. Yeah. It's green. And then, to the horizon and panoramic, the whole, everywhere you look. And then you fly for an hour. Then you fly for 2 hours. Oh. And the shit doesn't end. And you're like, holy shit. But going to my story, I was like, hey, are there any crocs around here? And so, and they start laughing. I'm like, huh? They got a flashlight. And the thing about crocodiles and alligators, at night when you shine lights in their eyes, they're glowing red. Oh. And so they put a flashlight across just around one bank, on the other bank. I'm like, oh, right. There's like 35 of them right across from me. I'm like,
oh, God. Well, that sounds terrifying. What was the most terrifying bugs you saw while in the Amazon?
I was lucky because, right at Manaus is where it splits into like a fishbone thing, a wishbone kind of shape. So you have the Rio Negro and the one in the south. I forget the name, but they kind of act like a seesaw. So I was there in the dry season. So I actually was not getting destroyed by bugs. But the sun, you're right on that shit. It's like a razor blade. And then of course, hey, will I see piranha? Like all the time. It's like, hey, there's a jacuzzi in the corner over here. They're like feeding frenzies like all the time. I mean,
Tim, I haven't counted your toes, but I assume a piranha did not get your pinky.
That's the thing about the Rio Negro. You look down, it's like onyx. It's jet black, and you put anything like 2 inches in, you can't see shit. You can't see shit. I mean, you don't want to go in that shit.
You put your foot in, you come out without one. I know. Terrible.
Well, that's the thing about the native indigenous folk. I mean, they would be swimming and stuff, so they know that land, and they know when not to go in. But I just.
Yeah, when they see you see 35 pairs of red glowing eyes on the other bank, you don't go for a swim.
No.
Well, it's so hot. So hot. I wish I had a kiddie pool in my living room right now because I'd be swimming with or without a piranha or a threat of anything biting my pinky. That's all I know right now. I think that's about all we need to say.
Sure.
In our collective multi-city intro, episode 109 with Billy Chainsaw, a friend of mine for many, many decades who's worn many hats and usually sports a cowboy hat. And under that sports many creative hats. And I'm very happy to present the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Billy Chainsaw. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and a very dear friend of mine for decades. That would be Mr. Billy Chainsaw. Welcome, Chainsaw.
Great to be here.
And since I don't know the story, how did the two of you meet? If you've known each other for decades, where was the first meeting of the minds?
Do you remember, Lydia? Because I do.
I don't.
Ha ha ha. Right. Round Murray's in London.
Yep.
I had got busted coming through at customs at Dover because I'd been on tour with a band and what do you call it? They confiscated anyway all the merchandise because the people sent me back with no paperwork. They said, just bluff it. You'll get through all right. Yeah, I did, didn't I? They kept kicking me, so I stayed awake all night. And then we eventually got out, but they impounded. They impounded all the merch. And back in those days, no such thing as a cell phone. So I thought, where can I go where they've got a phone that I can leave a message with the boss and tell him what's going on? I thought Murray.
Okay, so one second. Murray was my lover at the time.
Right. You were around his flat. There was a payphone outside the flat in the corridor. I knocked on the door. You came to the door. I says, is Murray there? And you said, no. I says, well, can I come in and wait? I need to be by a phone. And you said, I warn you, I'm in a cranky mood. And I said, not as cranky a mood as I am.
Whoa.
Nice. Instant friends.
So I came in and you went and got a pipe.
I went and got what?
A pipe.
A pipe.
Like
Yeah.
a one to smoke from or one to beat someone with?
One to smoke with. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So we got relaxed, and we've been friends ever since. What happened next? I know exactly. I can remember it like it was yesterday. What happened was, you says, I'm only going to be here for a couple of hours because someone's coming round. I'm going off for a photo shoot. A little bit later, pretty stoned by then, Nick Cave turns up. And you go off to a junkyard, a breaker's yard, to do a photo shoot with Nick for Junkyard, the birthday party album.
All right.
The session of which I've only ever seen one photo from, and that was in forced exposure. And you and I can't remember whether you were on the ground or Nick is, hang on, he's probably an English car, so he'd be in the driving side, and you'd both be sort of hanging out, sort of disheveled.
I was wearing a nice polka dotted dress. I do remember that. And that was by Christina Bira. I don't remember anything else that you've just said at all. And the photo was in a junkyard, but I don't think it was for the album Junkyard.
It never got, no, it was. It was the time.
I had no idea. Well,
right?
Look, the cover of Junkyard beat all others. I wasn't on it. That's fine. I have no zero zip zilch recollection. I'm surprised I didn't get a
The funny thing about the photo is, though, the only one I ever saw from that, what I assume is that session, was in forced exposure, and they credited Nick as Thurston Moore.
Whoa. Well, you know, what's also amazing about that story is I've maybe seen Lydia smoke weed once in my life. That's not a either one. That's not her go-to. At least
I hate the smell of hash. I must have just had it in case some stray character, some big stray character who just got busted shows up, so I could stone him out in case I had to knock him out. I'm not sure. Now, speaking about knocking out, one of my favorite memories, and Kathy Unsworth, who we had on the show some episodes ago, related that at one of my spoken word shows, I think it was in Brighton, you were there, you caught her when she fainted after I opened her third eye with my spoken word.
Correct.
But you've done many things. And so at that time, when I first met you, you were working for Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah.
What were you doing?
In London. Well, I come from Birmingham.
Oh, yeah.
England.
Car rock capital of the world.
Yeah, England, not Alabama.
All right.
And 1977, first time I met the Banshees. Punk rock had got to Birmingham, and I asked Sue what it was like in London. She said, come down. Long story short, 2 years later, I moved to London to work with them. And I just started off doing the fan club. I left the factory, shift work at the factory, to go and do the fan club with 2 weeks' wages and lived in a squat because you're supposed to give a month's notice. But I just went in the office. I said, I'm sorry, I'm leaving on Friday. I'm moving to London to work with the Banshees. And they says, well, we can't say a lot about that, can we? And I says, no. And so that's what happened. But then racing through a lot of years, everything I did from that moment on was from ground zero. I'd never done any of it before. And I ended up doing every aspect of the creative management side with the videos.
Wow. Fake it till you make it. Impressive.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you get thrown in the deep end, you either drown or swim, don't you? And that.
There you go.
I could already swim, so I didn't drown.
That's funny. So you knew the whole crew. We should have Budgie on the show, by the way, Lydia, who we ran into.
Oh, we would love to. I had Budgie did, didn't he play Frankie Teardrop with us?
Yes, he sat in.
And he almost exhausted himself playing the maracas for 10 minutes.
So when was the last time you ran into Susie Sue?
Yes.
Yeah. She's in France now, right? She's in the south of France.
No, she's back in England.
Oh, she is.
She's back in South London for quite a while, I think. Where though, I don't know.
Did that end on a good note? Because you did put in quite a few years doing all kinds of things with
16
them.
years.
Holy shite.
That's commitment.
Well, it was a dream thing, you know. I was a working class kid from working class family,
right?
Shift work in a factory, punk rock. I could get to work with a band that I loved. It was a no-brainer. And, you know, there were great times, there were shit times. But I learned everything that I have since by courtesy of common sense, something I think most people are lacking, to apply it to everything else I've ever done. It was just the learning curve for me.
Yeah.
It changed my life.
And let me ask you this. I don't, because I don't really remember, but I know that 1313 opened for the Banshees in Pasadena. Were you on that tour by that time? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm just because all I remember is we did it. I don't remember anything else. I'm just saying. But look, your career from that point on, and as you said, you learned so much. I'm just recalling all the great writing, the journalism, the magazines, also in conjunction with Kathy Unsworth that you did. Can you remind me of some of those? I mean, can you remind me of some of those titles? Because that was a very important time in musical journalism and also literary journalism in the UK.
Yeah, well, it was, again, something I hadn't done. The only writing I'd done was doing the fan club magazine, right? Then that started when I left the Banshees to work at Purr.
Which was an amazing and beautifully put together magazine. What years was that, Billy? Per magazine.
I knew you'd ask for years.
It doesn't matter. It was the 80s. Sometimes.
You got it in you.
The 80s, yeah. It was the 80s. That was a great time doing that because another dream job, but unfortunately run by an arsehole, and it went tits up. But at least we put out, because we were a publishing house as well, we had a gallery and we ran the magazine and everything else in the basement. And it was the first exhibition, I think, was Ted McKeever.
Which, by the way, yes, I did a comic with Ted McKeever, Toxic Gumbo. You're so right. Yep.
And then, Darling Richard Kern, we put out the original version of New York Girls. And I'm sitting in the office one day and the phone rings and I'm on my own and it's a Vice Squad. And they go, who must be?
Wait, hold on. You're in the office sitting alone and it's the Vice Squad, not Vice Magazine. That means the Vice Squad.
The cops on the phone to say, I'm basically served a cease and desist order on New York Girls. They said that a woman and her son had gone into a bookstore in London's West End and her son had opened it up and was traumatized by
a candle up a woman's ass.
A candle up a woman's ass, full suspension shots. And I said, well, hang on, how can that be? I says, we know the law. We shrink wrapped every single copy of that book. It was stickered with an adults only sticker on the cover. I says, we cannot be responsible once we have distributed it to a bookstore. We cannot be responsible surely for how they display it. If they choose to take off all the warnings and leave it open for anyone to see, that's not our fault, is it? He goes, yes, it is. He said, we are going to come and impound them. So
they all wanted to jerk off to it. Let's face facts.
Yeah. So what we did was my friend who had put the money up, partly for the studio, all for the Richard Kern book, he was import export paper, and he got them to somebody in Europe and sold them to them. So when they're sold, but ironically, it worked out great for Richard because then he struck a deal with Taschen.
Well done.
So he got double bubble for the one publication, only they took out all the full suspension shots.
You know, Tim, we haven't mentioned this phrase in a long time, but
what's that?
Billy Chainsaw is an obvious contender for a connective tissue within the Lydian spin. Chainsaw, sure. We always say that, you know, so many of these things are like circular. I mean, it's just how people are connected. And you're reminding me of how many varied connections
oh my God.
we have had between Richard Kern, Murray Mitchell, the Banshees, Nick Cave, the Vice Squad. And that's only the beginning. Kathy Unsworth, Chris Campion, who's also been on this podcast.
Yeah.
So was Chris Campion also writing for Purr?
I don't think he did. In fact, it was during that period, and I'm pretty sure, could be wrong, it was at the launch for the Richard Kern book that I met Chris.
I met Chris Campion when he worked at a record label, and he used to take me to shows on the train. I mean, he was just a teenager.
Yeah,
I mean, and I have no idea how much I could have traumatized that young man. I adored him immediately. I talked to him like 4 days ago. Brilliant writer. It's just amazing, again, this connective tissue and how still so many people I met in the 70s, 80s, 90s and on, well, we're still in touch, and not in touch enough with you because I never come that often to Brighton, but I am going to the UK soon. Anyway, so
if it's allowed.
Yeah, exactly. Are you guys going to have your fourth wave, or you're in it? No, wait, everything's open now? I don't know what's going on.
Look, none of us know what's happening. The country's run by a jerk.
It doesn't matter. I sent you the link to the documentary. You've seen it. I'm not too disappointed if I don't come. Of course, I'd love to see Unsworth and yourself. However,
Brighton and Hove is the hot spot for COVID currently.
I'm in the low spot for COVID.
Why? Because it's summer. Because it's summer and everyone's just flocking there, or
because everybody comes down here because it's a resort.
Yeah.
London and the tourists.
All right, so
let's get off that shit.
Let's go on from Purr magazine, and then you carry on in that vein for a while.
Yeah.
What happened after Purr?
Well, because I was involved with the Banshees, every night you went out, it was to see a band. You knew every band in town. It seemed like there were no punters. It was just bands. And I knew Phil Alexander, the editor of Kerrang magazine. So I said, Phil, I want to be a journalist. I want to do some writing. And he says, come in with three things you want to write about. He says, you got carte blanche. And this went on and on. I keep bumping into him, and he goes, "How come you haven't been in?" I said,
wait. What were those first three things for Kerrang?
I never came up with any.
What?
I never came up with any because I says it's bloody difficult coming up with three things because you have the world's leading rock magazine. You get everything firsthand. You get the choice. You come up with the ideas, and then you'll hate this. Courtney Love was in the People versus Larry Flint, right? I says, right, Phil, I know something I can do. I've seen all the films she's been in. I've got the videos. You can do some screen grabs. I'll do Courtney Goes to the Movies. And that was in the first meeting. And during that meeting, he says, yeah, good idea. I says, how come nobody reviews films? He says, well, we'll get the offers, but no one can be bothered. I says, I can do that. I've never done it before. I says, I can do that. He says, right, come in for another meeting. And I got made film editor. And that is how I became a film journalist. But I had to find out how to get into all the bloody screenings. Nobody was there to teach. I found out that. And I ended up being inducted into the bloody critic circle as a film critic. And the
let's pause there for a minute. So let's just, in that period, what were some of the films you were reviewing or that you really liked at that period? So we're now talking like the mid 80s. I think we are.
Yeah, well, I can remember, I think the first film I did, because remember, it's not family friendly, but you know what I mean? It's kind of mainstream, Kerrang rock magazine. First film I did was Tim Burton, Mars Attacks.
Okay.
That was the first film. I tended to deal, but then it just went crazy because as I got more engrossed in that, I started working for Bizarre magazine.
But wait, Bizarre magazine was kind of a really beautifully put together fetish art magazine.
Well, it was completely left field. It was better at first because it was really eclectic. It covered all the arts, and there was this section up the front, which sometimes had to be sealed because the pictures were so horrible. But then it became too much of a fetish magazine.
Billy, let me ask you, because is that how it works? I mean, even if you go back to Playboy, I mean, these eclectic kind of designs, and then basically, I guess through market research, they start seeing this is what sells, and they basically everything that's not drawing them in is put in the back burner, and it starts becoming one directional as opposed to whatever the original template.
Yeah, that's what happened. They thought, it's that whole thing, sex sells, so that's what they pushed. But during that time, I became an editor there as well, and I got to write about books. I got to write about films. I got to write about art. I used to do a thing called My Bizarre Life, which was basically a celebrity, but left field celebrities. Well, left field artists. Why never did you, Lydia? I don't know.
Because I was too much for even you, except you could handle me. And by the way, you didn't need to write a book about me. I wrote
loads of books.
Just saying.
And magnificent they are.
Well, I didn't write it. Well, I didn't write that many, but they're all good.
Bill, going back to your Birmingham roots and all stuff. I mean, there's just so many iconic bands from so many different directions. I mean, it's so wide.
Yeah.
What's that?
When I was 14,
yeah,
pretty long hair at school.
Were you a metalhead or psychedelia?
There's no such thing as a metalhead.
Metalhead, right. But it was being invented.
Harry's.
Ah, all right.
Like that. We were called Harry's because we had long hair. In fact, we were forced to get it all cut off and got in the papers. I was 14 and probably one of the best bands ever from Birmingham. That's a question for you. Who would that be from there?
Well,
1970.
Led Zeppelin or Black Sabbath?
No, Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath, much better than Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Black Sabbath.
Yeah, Black Sabbath.
Hang on 1 minute. Weasel, Walter, and I covered War Pigs. And by the way, he's compiling at this moment a new compilation for our upcoming tours, Tim. And War Pigs is the last track. I'm sending it to you, Billy. When we get off this, I'm sending it. It is, look, how do I love to do cover songs. War Pigs, I had to really reinterpret the way, because I'm no longer a falsetto as I once was. And I'm doing double vocals. It's pretty fucking grand.
So, Billy, tell me your early Black Sabbath story. I'm curious about this.
First time I saw him, I was 14. Nobody at school wanted to come with me.
Right, classic.
I had to go on my own. It was the pre-decimalisation currency. It cost 10 shillings and sixpence, which in UK money now is 52 pence, which is about 70, 75 cents. That's how much it cost me to see. I know.
What year, Billy? What year?
The Paranoid tour.
Amazing.
That was it. Life changed.
Yeah. I mean,
well, it's already changed because I already loved Sabbath anyway, but that was my first proper rock concert.
And how, they kind of, because I read the autobiography of Ozzy, I've read a bunch about Black Sabbath. I mean, 70, they're the local heroes. How big was the room when you saw them on the Paranoid tour? Were they
it was actually the Birmingham Town Hall.
Okay.
So it's not huge, but it was sizable.
Right.
And in fact, I have to admit that time I saw Black Sabbath, I only saw the back of them. Because I was in the cheap seats, which was the orchestra gallery, which is where the orchestra stood when they played during a classical concert. So we watched them from the back. It didn't matter though. I was headbanging so much it would have made no difference whether the bloody Princess Diana was standing there.
Billy, have you ever had a bang over, which is a headache from head banging? I call it a bang
Not really, no. But I've got terrible tinnitus and I've had it for years.
Oh boy. Well, but Black Sabbath, so you see them when you're 14, but there's also a ton of other bands coming out of Birmingham the whole time. But then I guess it's punk and Susie the Banshee that basically bring you to London. And
well, that was 76.
Right. So you're 20
over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just attracted to it immediately. It actually followed on from glam rock, like Bowie and Roxy Music and that. And most of the kids that were into that, for some, I'll say strange reason, because there's no real, to me.
Billy, I know. Let me tell you what the connective tissue between Roxy Music and Susie and the Banshees are, as opposed to any other band of that period. It's a certain amount of elegance.
Yeah.
All right. So it makes sense.
Right, but it can go into
that aspect makes complete sense to me, because what I was talking about though is because the Banshees were never really punk rock.
No.
So that is what you just said is a great analogy. I mean,
but you can also take it in from other, because Duran Duran's from there. You can go new romantic. You can run with any of that glam stuff and go in many different directions. And so.
Hey, wait, Tim. I do not go.
They do. They do. They do.
All right, hang on.
Nick Rhodes does. Those were his influences.
All right. Too
fine.
bad. You know what? He didn't pick. You know what? He failed.
I must say, I'm surprised to hear that double D word on this show.
Well, I'm looking up Birmingham bands right now, so I'm just kind of hitting some marks.
Look, let's not talk about Tim Dahl's expertise
or my double D's.
Sorry.
Well, the first time I smoked pot was courtesy of Judas Priest.
Oh, cool.
My mate at school, the mixed race kid in our class, Johnny Campbell, great guitarist at the time, 15. His brother was the original drummer in Judas Priest. There's a sad story. There's a sad story to that. Because Judas Priest got offered the support for Budgie.
Not the drummer Budgie, but the band Budgie.
The band, the Welsh band Budgie, was on an American tour. And he chose not to go.
Big mistake.
His girlfriend wouldn't let him.
What?
All right, chainsaw, reel it in for a minute. So you're going from Black Sabbath, Paranoid, Judas Priest, but also Bowie, Roxy, glam, and then you're into punk rock. But your main focus for 16 years, Banshees were not punk rock to me.
Oh, me.
They were an elegant version of pop glam. Yeah. And so, but let's talk a little bit about that period of like 76 to 82. Who were some of your favorite bands that you saw in the UK? Because there were an incredible amount of great music. I mean, I love Wire, Joy Division. I mean, there were the Birthday Party, my number one favorite. Too bad he's dissolved into such a fucking idiot. But I'm just saying,
Joy Division,
Virgin Prunes, Virgin.
Never
Prunes
saw the Prunes, but Joy Division, yes, because my best friend at the time was Anik Honoré, who was Ian Curtis's lover.
The one that he was cheating on with, right? Or no?
The one that he was with when he was married.
Isn't she she's Belgian?
She's dead now, but she was Belgian.
She's Belgian, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Buzzcocks magazine. I mean, all of these groups to me, they're lumped in.
I want you to finish the story, Billy. I want you to finish the story. So you're a friend.
They're both
I know, but
dead.
you had a story I thought around. All right, fine. You said you were friends with his lover, but okay.
Oh, anyway. That one.
Yes.
That one. Yeah, she was my best mate. In fact, I went to see Joy Division play the university in London, and I was going to something in town, and I said to Ian and Anik, why don't you come along? So we got a lift in the back of the van with all the band and that, and I took them to the original Scala Cinema for the all-night session. And it was an industrial record night with Throbbing Gristle, The Leather Nun, Monty Kazaza, and the films of Kenneth Anger.
How did I know you were going to say that? Pause for a minute. First of all, Monty Kazaza is one of my favorite people on the planet. Unknown, unheralded, a genius. Second of all, the Scala, a woman that programmed the Scala for quite a few years, is making a documentary on the Scala, a friend of Kathy Unsworth. She just contacted me. I'm like, I don't even remember, but she goes, well, you did this at the Scala, a great alternative cinema, London, King Cross. I'm like, I don't remember any of those things, but thank you for telling me I did them. I have no memory. I cannot be in your documentary. I'm just saying. Absolutely. And wasn't the Scholar right near that anarchist bookstore where I remember purchasing for 50 cents Scum Manifesto by
probably in King's Cross, yeah. But the Scholar I'm talking about is the original one. She took over when it moved to King's Cross.
Where was the
original one? Was in Goode Street, in the London West End. And they used to do it every Saturday night. It would go until 5 or 6 in the morning. They just back-to-back films until the tube started, and everybody used to go down there.
It was an amazing period. I just want to go back to like Buzzcocks magazine, Joy Division, Banshees, Wire. Again, to me, they're lumped into this punk category because they were happening at the time, but they were all so far and so much more beyond it, because it was really just twisted, either pop music based a lot on glam, just rock music, and the punk attitude was there, but it was not a punk sound. I mean, and not to fiddle with definition, but I mean, it's just a category. It's a title that always gets so many people get lumped into. I always protest. I am fucking no wave. Leave me out of it. But they were not no wave. There is really no title to some of those bands that were all creating, especially in the UK at one time, which were absolutely amazing. I saw early Wire, blown away.
Well, you mentioned the time frame there, and there was something happened musically, which to me was better than anything and still is to me, than as much as I like so many of those bands you've mentioned, and that was No Way. Teenage Jesus and the Jerks.
Ooh.
How could I not like? How could I not love a band with that name?
Well, let me tell you this. Read my mind, because right before we started this podcast, I told Weasel to take Orphans off the new compilation he's putting together, because I'm like, I'm done with it. You've heard it. You don't need it on a new compilation. Out. I don't know. How could you love it? How could you not love it? I have no idea.
No, it's funny, Billy, because, going back just to what Lydia's saying about, I didn't want to be categorized as this, and everyone wants to group this up with punk. Just like you saying, there were no metal heads. We were Harrys. I know Ozzy Osbourne still to this day doesn't like the term heavy metal to describe Black Sabbath. He says that was put on him. His idol was John Lennon.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this? Anyhow, no. Well, that's him. I'm not speaking for anything else.
All right. I'm just against idols or idols. Whatever.
But the No Wave, at that time, there was a record store, tiny independent record store in Birmingham. So I'm still living at home with the folks.
How old were you? 17, 18?
No. I moved.
14, 13.
I'm 65 now.
Yeah, don't look
good,
it.
Thanks. I'm trying to think. But yeah, I moved to London in 79. When did the first Teenage Jesus single come out?
I
78?
have no fucking clue. 77?
78.
Around then.
22.
Well, later than
I was
that.
22. So
older than I.
Yeah, I know you're younger than me, and you certainly look it.
Only by 3.
No, but then I bought that. I bought the first. Was it on the Vengeance label? The first
Contortions.
Yeah, and the Cramps first single, and the B-52s was thrown in with all that. Like the Banshees turned around to me and says, "What's the matter with you?" I says, "What are you talking about?" They said, "All you listen to now is this bloody American stuff." I says, "Well, because it's fucking great." End of. End of, or the beginning of us. End of.
So you knew who I was when you showed up at my door on that fateful night when you're. Well, I know who you are now, my friend. And
trust me, when you opened that door, it was like a dream come true.
Aww.
Only to a man like you. Only to a man like you. Mr. Chainsaw, you gave me a great compliment in one of our recent emails. You said, you didn't put it this way, but I love to be the cattle prod for people. And I don't really know how I impacted or influenced you to do the many things you do, but you're like me. You're like Tim. We do a lot of different kinds of things. You wear many hats. And your latest hat is this visual artwork. How did that come about?
Can I slip something in prior to
the...
Please.
You slip it in.
I'm going to slip something in because it's very important to me. I worked in the porn industry for 13, 14 years for Paul Raymond Publications. And I ended up being the executive editor on Club International, the hardcore US version. And the reason I wanted to slip this in is because I got this amazing woman to write these really superb, salacious stories for it. And her name's Lydia Lunch.
Whoa.
No.
More literally connective tissue when you're talking about actual connective tissue.
I got Richard, I commissioned Richard Kern to do photo shoot series. I helped him out by I think it's called second rights. It's once you've sold the girl set, the photos to publication, you can then sell on the second rights. So I used to buy a lot of his second rights. And when I first started, they had a blue collar, 3 pages of cars that I thought to myself, well, the people who read this magazine are never going to be able to afford this crap. I want monster trucks. I want dragsters.
Nice.
I want hot rods. So I got my friend's big stick.
By the way, not many people might remember Big Stick. My boyfriend takes me to the drag races.
Yeah.
Big
and
Stick.
I wear my tube top.
I wear my tube top. Big Stick released a really cool single. They were really weird. Nobody could figure them out. They were a 2-piece. I know they were friends of Bob Burroughs. But Big Stick, I loved that song, drag racing. And I did love going to monster truck rallies. I've been there. I actually went drag racing with them because they live in Brooklyn. We're still in touch with them now. They're still recording. Now, reel it back for a minute. Was I writing questions and answers for Club? What was I writing? Because I would fiction. What fiction? Fiction. They're actual stories. Yeah. I don't remember any of them, but I used to write them. My first gig, it was for a different Paul Raymond publication. It was called My.
Did you know Paul personally, though? Did you know him personally?
We only ever met a couple of times, but he was the best boss ever. And the reason it really took to me, because I had no experience. Again, like I said, ground zero, just build on it. Applied everything I learned with the Banshees, put it in the porn mags. And the publisher actually told me that the reason that Mr. Raymond liked me was because I came from the entertainment industry. Okay. I worked for the Banshees.
That's funny.
But it was great.
Paul Raymond, he likes showbiz.
Yeah, I was able to employ friends. You got money. Richard got money. Everybody got money. I had a really great photo taken in front of the Paul Raymond Review, I believe by Christina Bira, who did a lot of photos of me in kind of a sparkly cocktail dress, as if I haven't appeared on those kind of stages in the past. We don't need to talk about that. However, I remember the pictures. So you were actually staying at Mark. I remember the pictures. You were staying at Mark Allman's flat at the time. I was. It's amazing. It's like, this is all, it's all buried there somewhere. But when you start talking to someone like yourself, just triggers it all off. It all comes out. Well, I have to say, Murray Mitchell, who introduced me to all of you, when I pounced upon him and decided that I would attach myself to him, knowing he was a road dog, would often be on tour and moved to London to work with the birthday party and other things, that he said to me a really great phrase very recently. He said,
I have to say, this is one of the best quotes. He's like, doll, babe, I know you don't like to think about the past, but how about a fuck for the future? And I thought, oh my God, that is really one of the best. I had to refuse. I'm like, you got plenty to live on there, honey. Don't worry about it. I thought that was just the greatest possible. I always complain that men have no game. That's having game. Even if
I saw him only 3 weeks ago.
We still love him, even if it didn't work.
It came to the show I'm in London.
Let's talk about that now. So
let's talk about art. Right, Tim, ask me a question.
So this is the glue. You're going from your work in the professional porn industry, for better for worse in terms of terms, and you got your friends' jobs and all that stuff. And is this? I assume there was a point there. This is what led you into your art career.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like I'd always done bits of art, but never really put it out there. And they have a thing down here in Brighton and Hove called artist open houses, where for too much money you can appear you have to pay to have a pack shot of somebody's art in their like catalogue and all the details of the open house that you've got. And then people come round, look at your art and buy your stuff. They don't see you working, they just buy your stuff. Well, this guy I knew said he was going to do an open house. And it went on and on and on. I said, oh, what's happening about this open house? And he says, my mum won't lend me the money. I went, great. So we're not doing it then. He says, well, yeah, we could just do our own one and get footfall of people going to others. So about 2 days later, I went in a local cafe, opened up the local paper, and there was about two column inches about this woman that was setting up an underground open house trail. And she was, instead of having a catalogue, she was going to do a fanzine and she wanted writers. And so I contacted her, told her who I was, what I'd done, straight on board, and wrote a piece on a local artist who's big influence to me called Jeff Keane, but he's long since dead now. And that cost a tenner instead of about £300. And I thought, right, okay, I've got a couple of things here. Pulled out some old paintings, did some bit more mixed media on them, put them on a wall. People came in, started talking about them. And then suddenly somebody bought one. What happened? It was only on for 4 weekends over 1 month. I was selling the art in the week. I was making the art on the weekdays and selling it at the weekend. And by the end of the month, I completely sold everything. But on the first week I was there, the first weekend I was there, this woman comes in and goes, I've got a studio space. And I says, oh, really? She says, would you mind if people come in looking for space, students and that, would you tell them? I says, okay. So I waited 10 minutes till she was out of earshot. Rang up Slow, my wife, and I said, I know this is a stretch on expenditure we don't have, but this will be a turning point. I know it will. And I went down next morning, got the studio, and I'm still there nearly 10 years later. And
let me just describe a little bit about your artwork, because it utilizes a lot of influences that you've had in your own life, like William Burroughs, alchemy, magic, goats. And I don't mean the greatest of all time. So it really is utilizing a lot of influence you had and making a post-pop art rendition. I really love the 3D stuff, and I love the ceramic reappropriations that you do as well.
Oh, thanks.
I really enjoy them. And so again, the connective tissue, it's how shit works. This person knows that one, you do this, you do that. And the thing is, that's what we do. We wear a lot of different hats because we have a lot of interest, and we also have a lot of energy, and it's got to go somewhere. So why not into a painting? Why not exploit, especially William Burroughs, in a post-pop art painting, which I exploited him on the centennial of his birth, because I figure, hey, dead white man, plenty of them I should exploit. Just saying.
Dead rich white man.
Well, I'm a better shot than he was because I've never killed anybody and I've fired plenty of guns. I'm just saying.
Well, that's not where I was going with that. Well, also, Billy's worn literally many hats. As I look at pictures of you, you have cowboy hats and all types of hats.
He's notorious. He's infamous for sporting. I mean, he's home now, so he's just wearing a casual hat. Tim usually wears a lot of, well, they're all baseball caps. Chainsaw is known for his cowboy hats.
Yeah, I wear them to gallery openings because I stopped wearing them in public because they started selling really cheap versions on markets, and it was kind of and rock festivals, and it kind of like, oh, I don't want to be associated.
Oh, I mean, I have no idea about people appropriating one of your stylistic, iconographic images. None at all.
So you have a real Stetsons?
They're all real Stetsons, yeah. I've still got about 6, and I bought them all in America.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
None of these rubbish
Texas
things.
Or just...
And the funny story there is I bought the first one in, I think, was it 96? The first Lollapalooza. I was out with the Banshees on that. And I bought
Who else was on that?
That was the first one. Jane's Addiction.
The first one.
Jane's Addiction.
Rollins Band.
Sort of opened up. Bottle Surfers, Living Colour, 9 Inch Nails, Banshees.
Star-studded.
Addiction. Yeah, it was great.
Was there?
It was a tour of my life. It was the best month I have ever spent on the road. Better than any Banshees tour. It was just phenomenal.
You know, I would love to, but I'm not going to dig into the dirt on the Banshees. We all know there's plenty buried under those words. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go there.
No.
All right. So all right. You have your 10 years solid, you're saying, of this, of your studio gallery or whatever.
No, that's just where I work, my studio, yeah. Well, I call it the lockup, you know, Warhol at his factory. I've got a lockup, which is basically a double garage, and I've got a quarter of it.
That's in Brighton. That's in Brighton,
Hove, which is next to Brighton.
Okay. Okay. And so what brought? So when did you move there from London?
We moved there. It's over 14 years ago, because we wanted to start a family.
Classic.
Somebody has to do it because we're not.
Yeah. Well, my son's a killer, not literally.
Does he administer your website?
Well, what happened was Lucian Burroughs, his name is.
Amazing.
He says, I really like your artwork, Daddy. He says, but I'm really disappointed. Says what? He says, I look at it a lot. I look at it a lot when I'm in break at school and stuff. He says, I'm really disappointed because you have not touched it for 5 or 6 years. And
your website.
And that is disgusting. I says, yeah, that's right. I haven't, because I'm too busy making art. I hate that shit. And he says, well, I can do that for you. I went, son, 10%. He says, I want 11. I said, okay. And that's what he did. He redesigned it.
Right. Yeah, and I noticed.
He's 13. He's 13.
Yes, they grow pretty smart now.
Well, they taught it from the off, and he's like that. His fingers fly. What do you want to say here then? Pictures, show me the pictures.
As a fellow artist wearing many hats, I don't want to administer my Facebook, my website, my Instagram. I want it up there, but I mean, I want to do the art. I don't want to do the media. So it's great that you have a built-in kind of art pimp in your own house.
Exactly. And he loves it. He makes money out of it. I'm happy to give him money for that.
Thank you very much. Exactly. Because the better the website, the more you might make.
Yeah. But yeah, you were right in summing up the kind of art I do, because basically everything I create it's just that point. When I do it, it's stuff that's already in there. It's everything that's been soaked up and gets regurgitated in my own interpretation as art. That's it. Somebody said to me once, says, how can you charge that much for that one and that much for that one, when that one, you've hardly done anything on it? How long did that take you? I says, all my fucking life.
So,
Hello.
there you go.
That took me all my life to get that out.
Yeah.
I like to charge by the second or the word. Okay, let's start there. And by the way, how long has it taken me? All my fucking life. So don't question. I might be able to write lyrics in 10 minutes and a fucking novel in 3 months. I don't write novels, I'll say a memoir. Don't question how long it took to compile the experience, the details, the education of what has driven us, which was other artists to become what we are. And hence we do it hoping other people will be equally inspired.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I think I should drop this in, because you mentioned it a little ways back about, well, it's partly how I came to be on the show, because I sent you that email, and it was thanking you for being such an influence in a creative influence in my life, because during those Banshee years, you turned around and you said to me, you know, you've done all this stuff for other people. It's time you went out and did something for yourself. Still took a couple of years, but you lit that fire under my ass. And I haven't stopped since.
You know, Mr. Chainsaw, that is what I live for, is lighting fire under people's asses.
Yeah.
In more ways than one. Sometimes actual fires.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, I hope the flames under my ass never go out.
I'll always be here to reignite.
What's on the horizon for your?
Well, to be honest, being an artist, having my studio 20 minutes walk up the beach from where I live, which makes it sound very glamorous, but it's not, because it's not even sand, it's shingle.
Don't go barefoot.
Yeah, no. It didn't change, because it's there's a solitude when you're in the studio. You're on your own. I'm in my zone. That's it. I don't need anybody. So COVID didn't affect me in that way. And what I did, because, well, I was fucked off, because in November 2019, I was in part of a group show in San Francisco. Just before COVID broke, I'd got another show back in the same gallery in San Francisco, and there was a chance I was going to have a show in Vegas and in LA, right? COVID happened, bang, gone. But you don't stop making art. I've been making it towards all that. I go in there and make it most days, and I thought to myself, right, I know, I'll do a virtual gallery. So the ones I did, you get blue tack over there, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We get blue tack.
Yeah. I blue tacked. Because I have this thing called, this is how I got to take my art to America. A gallery in Brighton took me on, but they couldn't afford the canvases because they want to keep the price down in the studio. So it's all
couldn't afford the what?
They want to keep the price down, so it's affordable art.
Yeah.
Which my canvases cost too much for that. So I says, all right, you can have some of my works on paper. Then I add this concept called Reaperdelica, right?
Oh, say it again.
Reaperdelica.
I love it.
Right. Well, that's like my trademark now.
Right.
And I did a wall of art and strung it up between wire, clipped them onto wire. And the inspiration was when there's a big disaster or something, and they build those walls out of notes of the missing and and as they find people, they take the note off the wall. Well, I was letting them take the art when they bought it in the same way. And behind it, there was a montage of all stuff that influenced me, but front page stories on newspapers, on Anton LaVey, blah, 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 Charlie Manson, the usual crowd. And then I sprayed across it, our Pook is here. Our Pook being the main god of death, which I learned through Burroughs. And that stuck. My friend Al says, we can do that in San Francisco. I can get you a show here. I said, let's do it. And so I went over, and he took me around, and everybody had so much respect for this. Is someone I've known for 30 years. He's a Kiwi. He's from New Zealand, but I knew him in London for about 25, 30 years. Second day there, he got touch. I says, Al, for America, you are my manager. So I made him my manager. I didn't ask. And it's just grown since then. The Reaper brand is now a range of merchandising, which actually has my logo with my face on it, printed on the inside.
Which, who doesn't want that?
Yeah. And Reaper is a series of things that I do. I keep that, and I changed the end bit because I took it up North England, and it was Reaper North. But back to, for you, Tim, well, and you, Lydia, you asked me what I was doing during COVID. And I thought, right, I can't show it anywhere. So I stuck the pictures on the wall, like a Reaper. I called it Reaper Virtual. I got my phone. I did a little film like that, took pictures of everyone and stuck it on the internet, on social media. And I sold more paintings in 5 days than I've sold in any show. So you just adapt, don't you? You know about it. You're the queen of adapting.
Well,
look, it's adaptation then, but that's got a different connotation.
I know what you're saying. Readaptation. Look, COVID. I can say I've had a good time. We've done the podcast. Tim and I recorded an album. I recorded an album with Sylvia Black. I have not stopped. And by the way, we ended. We were the last show in New York with Retrovirus, and we were one of the first shows opening it. And you just have to adapt. You do it. And the thing is, as you have your whole career, as I have my whole career, as Tim has done, musically adapting to whatever needs to be done, whatever needs to come out at the time. And I don't know what else to say other than I think we should close this out with that. You have to be able to, if not go with the flow, usually we go against the flow.
We do.
You have to be able to create your own flow, know who you are connected to, continue with the connective tissue, because look, that's why we know each other since the early 80s.
Yeah. And that is a long, long time.
And honey, it ain't stopping.
It ain't.
Because you get your tribe, and your tribe consists of people that have to create, that have no choice than to create, that it burns in their blood, that they do what they need to do, what they want to do, and they're going to do it whether anybody likes it or not, in whatever format it takes. And that's why we have the Lydian Spin. And this is Command the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch-Timdahl and my good friend, Mr. Billy Chainsaw, the man who catches the gals that faint when they open their third eye, who's worn many hats and is the Reaper-delic.
Reaper-delic.
Excuse me, but you are the Reaper-delic, huh? Well, yeah. That's the movement. Actually, you are the Reaper-delic. Shaman.
I mean, you. I think men have even a harder time when they get older to adapting. That's what the cliche of the grumpy old man comes from. It comes from something of like, I've done it like this for years, and this is the way it's going to be. So it's like, it's impressive that you're still marching forward and just
look. We may have
congratulations.
Met on a cranky night for both of us, but that is what brought us together. Because you know what? If you can't be cranky with your friends or take it to the stage, why the fuck are you cranky? All I'm saying. The Lydian Spin. Love you, Billy Chainsaw.
Love you, Lydia. Love you, Tim. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, it was a pleasure.
And Simon, I see you waving.
Simon. We'll let you know when this goes. We'll let you know when this goes up, and we'll post a few of your pieces.
Okay, that'd be fantastic.
Excellent. Bye, love.
I love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye, Billy.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
You.
Yep. Bye.